Hi, and welcome to Meet the Host. I'm Tom Handel, the Executive Director here at the Portland Media Center. I'm missing my co-host, Leslie McVeigh, our Development Director. She's going to be out for a while. So I'm going solo to interview two of our somewhat newest hosts for Waste of Time, which is a show that started about a year and a half ago or so. I'm here with Warren and Chip Edgar. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is a show that we do to highlight what people in the community come in here to do, is to make TV. And you could do the same thing that any of our hosts are doing. And we'll get, if you've watched the show before, you've seen other people and from all different walks of life doing what interests them most. So I hope you get something out of this. And if you feel like you want to produce a show yourself, come on in and we'll show you how. But for right now, before we get into exactly what goes on with Waste of Time, very interesting title, which we can talk about, I want to get a little bit more background on the two of you and how you started. So you're father and son team. And Chip, you, before this, hosted your own show on WMPG, the radio show Home Dad. But your experience with media goes further back, right? You majored in communications.
Yeah, no, I have a communications degree, and I know a lot of people ridicule people with communications degrees, but I'm proud of it. And I did. As far as electronic go, I've done some radio over the years in various aspects, producing, announcing, and then I did some TV as well for a few years, and which is why when we had the opportunity to get these guys on TV, I was like, well, you know what? Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
You know.
But you were doing radio. Let's see. You went to college. You're from Bedford, Mass, right?
Right, from Massachusetts. Yep.
And then you went to college in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Right.
Yep.
And then you went to spend a lot of time down south, right?
Well, I mean, when I got out of school, it was in the early '80s, and there was no way I could afford to live around the Boston area, and be a journalist, which is what I was. My actual first job out of college was a bread truck driver, and then I finally got a job as a reporter. But I finally was, I crashed financially and then moved to Houston. I lived in Texas for a few years. I then moved to New Orleans, and New Orleans is where I started getting into doing more radio and TV, and getting out of print.
And then what inspired you from moving from Louisiana to come up to Maine?
Well, then I got married, and my wife wanted to be, we were going to have children, and she wanted to be closer to her family who live in the Northeast. And I said I'd move back to the Northeast, but it would have to be Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine. Nothing else. Forget it. So that's what we did. So we came to Portland.
And when did you start back again in radio?
What do you mean, like when I got to Portland? Well, I started volunteering at WMPG. I did some radio sales for a while, which was an interesting experience. But then I was a volunteer at WMPG, and I basically wanted to, produce, and host a public affairs show. And we came up with the idea. I forget how it was, but I think I was in discussion with my wife about it. And we were sort of throwing it around, like, what if we were to, maybe I could have other, because at that time I was a stay-at-home dad. Okay.
Okay.
So my wife had just got her degree at Tulane, and was on the fast track, professional track, and I was working in TV and radio, and I just moved to the Portland, which there was no opportunities to continue what I had been doing. So
in radio
and or TV.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I got job offers, like master control and stuff like that, which I'm not putting those jobs down, but that was not what I wanted to be doing. And so economically, it made more sense for me to stay at home, and instead of working at some job that's going to pay me just about as much money as I would need to pay for daycare, it made more sense. And I worked a little bit out of my house, and that's when I started volunteering at WMPG. And we came up with the idea of what if I could just come up with a show, talking to other stay-at-home dads.
Is that how the show went?
Yeah, and my wife came up with the idea of the name Home Dad. So she came up with the name, and they had an opening on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, and they didn't have anybody to fill it. So I lucked out. So I said, "What do you think?" And the program director at the time said, "You're in."
Yeah.
So
I mean,
timing.
but was the program about home dads? Did you get
It was
a lot
originally. It was originally about. I had the first few shows. I did have stay-at-home dads on, but it's like you get guys on talking about stuff. They don't want to talk about anything, right? It's a 30-minute show. You're like, "So how's it going with you, Bob?" You know, good.
It didn't
Okay,
go anywhere.
and Johnny, what about you? How's life treating you? Okay, it's good.
But you didn't have any common ground as far as being a dad at home?
It was like pulling teeth trying to get any conversations going. So I sort of transitioned into doing more public affairs, issues that affected families.
I see. And then with Warren came with you to be on the show.
Originally,
right?
my oldest son Marcos was on the show.
Yeah. Oh.
And
How many children you have?
Two. Okay. So originally Marcos was on the show, and that was a lot of fun. And we used to have his friends on the show. You know, when during break time, like Christmas break, like next week you would have the kids on the show, and but then he started going to school like kindergarten and first grade, and he didn't want to go to the radio show anymore. And around that time, you were born. And you were born in December, which your birthday's coming up, December 23rd. And you, after 2 months, you were 2 months old when you came on the show.
And Warren, you were saying just before that you remember that, or you remember something back to that.
I remember I was probably a year, maybe 2 years old. But I remember playing with pens, number one, and playing with plastic cups from the water machine outside.
The water bottle, yeah.
The water jug.
You were so little when you started the show.
Because I
you were in
remember,
that little car carrier.
I was in the carrying thing.
Right?
And you don't remember that?
No.
Okay.
But I
put it right up on the table, and we'd have the mics going and everything. And at one point, I interviewed the superintendent of schools at the time, and she was like rocking you, keeping you, because you were fussing about something, and she's over there answering questions, and she's rocking you, keeping you amused.
You gave me a clip. It's not very long. It's just very, very brief. But I thought when I first saw the clip that you're talking to Warren over the phone, but Warren says no, he was actually there, and
he's probably in the room with me.
There.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Before we roll the clip, and we'll do it in just a second, but where in the screen should we look for some, like hints of you?
Oh, Warren, you're not in it. You're not in the script.
I'm more down on the ground, kind of, so it's kind of hard
so
to
we don't see it like a flash.
But you can kind of hear me if you listen close enough.
Okay.
It's mostly you just asking how I'm doing.
Yeah.
You used to do.
Now.
So he used to do. This is around the time when George Bush decided it was a good idea to invade Iraq. And we were also invaded Afghanistan, another great idea. And then to keep everybody in the spirit of war, we had the colorized terrorist threat warnings.
Right, you used to talk about
and
that.
we used, as a public service, we would announce what the terrorist threat level was. And Warren, you used to help me with that, and it was always, I think it was mostly yellow.
It was yellow, because my favorite color at the time was yellow. And so I remember that you would just, when I cue you, you say yellow, and it would come on and go, what's the show title? I'd be yellow.
Well, let's look at that clip now and see if
I
we
couldn't
could
find a clip of that.
We could find
at
least find Warren's some hint of Warren besides your voice. Let's look at that now.
My son Warren. Warren's with us today. 3-year-old Warren is in the house today. Warren, how you doing today, buddy? Warren, you doing all right? Yeah, there you have it. There you have it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
That was a short clip.
I didn't see you there. I was looking around toward the bottom.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I heard you.
Yeah. So shifting over to your experience now, you started off, in college and all that. You haven't even gone to college yet, but you're on radio just as an infant. And what was that experience like, and how did it lead up to this?
It was, so radio was interesting because one, Home Dad was kind of just me in the studio. Like I never really really took part in it. I didn't do any discussions.
No, you were pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only until your second show, Time Out, that he did on Home Dad, I'm not on
On
WMPG.
MPG, yeah.
That I did. I would do voice acting, and so I would call in. I'd be I'd be in the other room with a phone, and they patch me through, and I'd act like I'm Obama calling the show, and I'd be like, yes, this is my favorite. What did I say? My favorite
talk radio show.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
public affairs program in Maine, or something
Conservative
like
talk radio, because we were kind of goofing on the whole. All talk radio was all ultra conservative.
Yeah.
And we were pretty much the opposite of that.
But yeah, because I'd call in as like Obama or like these
right.
these,
You
these
were
famous
Obama.
figures.
Weren't you? You were Obama. Who else did you do?
And was that your first thing with acting, or did you do it in school too?
That was kind of my first thing into acting. I was also acting in school. I did something with the Portland Stage, where I did this whole theater camp thing during the summer. I was like 12, 11 at the time when I did that, and so that was kind of my first push into acting. And
you have an uncle that's in the industry.
Yes, so my uncle lives down in Hollywood, LA, and he is a executive / co-executive producers for these big shows. He did American Idol, The Gong Show, the new season that came out. He's done The Proposal, if you know what that show is.
Didn't you work on The Voice too?
He did.
And
he did MasterChef as well.
You visited him down there and got close to that?
Yes. So I visited him many times while he was down there, and one of the things that I mostly remember about that is going to the backstage at like American Idol. And we'd go in and you see all these celebrities in the makeup rooms getting all this stuff on. At the time, I had no idea what was happening. You look at this and I look back and I'm like, I was around like legit celebrities and I was oblivious to it.
You didn't know that they were celebrities?
I didn't really know they were celebrities. I was like 9, maybe 10.
Well, yeah, you came back and you had met Harry Connick Jr.
Yes,
I didn't even know who he was. I met Harry Connick Jr. I'm like, oh, okay.
But yeah, the one thing that stuck out to me a lot was kind of the disorganized mess of it all, and how you'd have these 30, 50 camera shoots and people running around, and these producers yelling at each other, and the director screaming at everyone, and there's all these people getting together, and then
it's not like that here at all, is it?
No, it's not. But then you kind of, and everything comes to this one thing. And you have the light shining down, and it goes, ready, camera 1, and boom, the camera comes up. Like, that's the big iconic thing I remember, is this big disorganized mess coming into this one thing
pulls together.
Exactly. Because then I started thinking, this is how TV is made.
Yeah.
Like, TV isn't just this theater that happens. It's all of these people coming together in this one studio with these cameras and these computers and these lights and these hundreds of people.
How did that influence you? I mean, what affected that?
That kind of first got me interested into TV and filmmaking. And after that I wanted to go into the movie industry.
So what did you do? Wasn't the first thing that you did in that direction? Was it?
No. I kind of took over a radio show on WMPG called The Tween-Light Zone. It's a play off of The Twilight Zone.
Okay.
Tween-Light
which
is
Zone.
like people not yet teenagers, but younger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't come up with the name. It was there before.
The Tween-Light Zone ran for many years, and they had one producer for it over it. And it was Saturday mornings, and they needed a new producer. They needed someone else to try to carry it on. So they approached me, and I said, fine, I'll do it. And we had a bunch of different people involved in it. Warren definitely was always involved in it.
Yep.
And then so as a tween, we started off thinking about the age group as far as whether you were in middle school or not. But then we actually ended up with Rosie, who's with the TV, was a waste of time now. But she was only in 5th grade when she started.
Well, yeah, so
technically wasn't a tween.
No, so
she's got a lot of talent.
So the Tween-Light Zone also had kind of was the birth of our crew.
Oh,
right.
So originally,
so some of the same people.
Yeah,
all the same people. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all came over to the TV show.
So mostly originally you had, it was me, it was three other people.
Yeah, there were some other people that had been with the show before, but then as we found that when the kids would go off to high school, then they would generally move on and do other things.
Yeah.
But we had like Elijah. He called in the Twilight Zone once.
I will still remember that. Elijah called in. God knows where they were.
Well, we're on the air.
They called in, and we took their call, and they were on the air. And that was, I forget what they were talking about.
I forget, but that was the beginning of it.
That was the beginning.
No, the waste of time, from what I see, it's kind of like a comedy show. It really is a lot of comedy. I mean, really, it is mostly all tongue in cheek. And was that the format of the Twilight Zone?
No, not at all.
The Twilight Zone, what I tried to do with it was I tried to have as much of the tweens, as possible. So before it sounded just, in my opinion, it was well done and everything, but it didn't have much tween in it. It was just another music show, right? So what I did was, first of all, I structured it more for them. So we had a taped opening. Well, we had an opening the way we would do the opening consistently at the top of the hour, just like professionals.
It was the Twilight Zone music.
We did the Twilight Zone music. It was not that original, but it was consistent.
We didn't get copyright strikes.
And then we'd have somebody tease what's coming up. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? Introduce everybody. Go to the music, and then between every song, I would have them do a back sell. And
what's a back sell?
Back sell. What did we just hear?
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then give the time and temperature or whatever. Remind people what they're listening to. Like a professional announcer.
Right.
Tease what's coming up next, and then intro the next song. And
so a pretty serious radio show.
Well, so as the radio show went on, it got less serious, and it kind of became into what A Waste of Time is today.
Oh, okay.
There was kind of this ongoing joke that whenever a car would pass by the studio, it was the FCC coming to get us. So we'd do a car would go by, and who was the guy running the audio?
Oh,
Adrian. Adrian would go,
Adrian.
the FCC's coming to get us.
So how long after that radio show ended did you evolve into saying, hey, why don't we go down to PMC
what happened was. What happened was the show got canceled, and the kids were really bummed. You know what I mean? They completely canceled the show, and the kids were really bummed. And Warren was very, very saddened by the whole thing because it was, these kids were having fun. They were having fun, right? And they were learning too. So I was thinking, and then he starts saying, "Hey, Papa, we need to invest $10,000 in a new camera and get some tripods and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Oh, whoa!"
Yeah, $10,000 just like that.
So that's when I started thinking, you know what? Let me call Access, because I knew, obviously I knew of you
Home
guys.
Dad.
Didn't I have you on Home Dad one time too?
Yeah, I was on Home Dad. Yeah.
So I figured I'd call you guys up and see what you thought, and I didn't know how you were going to react. But you were very open to it.
Of course.
And you guys have been totally receptive. I mean, that's not just PR stuff. You guys have been really good. And so everybody but Adrian came over.
Yeah.
And in fact...
We also had Aiden. We had
Aiden.
That came
He was more
Aiden.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We had some other guys come over and...
Well, maybe this is a good time right now to kind of introduce them. We could run the tape and still talk, because we have a short clip, a little bit of a clip of the people that are actually the core members of this group.
Yeah, so this video was taken from...
Who's this right here?
Okay, so that's Elijah right there.
And he
vaping. He's
vaping. He's not actually vaping.
What was he? Was he in the tween show?
He was in the
yes,
Tween Light
he's the one
Zone.
that called in the show.
Yes.
Oh.
And this is Billy, the one in the blue outfit. He was later. Rosie is his sister.
That's Elijah's
Rosie
sister,
Dale,
Rosie.
Elijah's sister.
Yeah, she's
She
really
looks
good.
like
she's good improv.
12 going on 35.
And you see who that is.
And there's me.
And then Wyatt is not in this clip.
We did not get a clip with Wyatt in it, sadly. Okay, so this clip was taken from a skit that we were doing called the Adolescent Support Group. What do you call it?
Right, it's an adolescent support group. It hasn't come up yet. That's
It hasn't-
B-roll
it hasn't
for that.
come out.
Oh, okay.
That's
So-
B-roll of the people in the support
So
group, right?
we did this thing where it was like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an adolescent. And then we cut to, hi, so-and-so. And then and it would be kind of like problems that kids are having. So like,
And just-
I'm playing, my Minecraft account is too many blah, blah. It's just random stuff like that.
Well, you do something unique that a lot of people don't do. Is you take the cameras out of here and you do other package. I don't even want to call them packages. They're like skits in the field.
They are like skits, yes.
You do skits here in the studio, and then you do skits in the field, and you go back and forth between the two, which is really interesting. You know what I mean? To go out and do that. Who writes those? How did they evolve? Do you sit? I mean, you don't just go off the cuff and do that.
Well,
Do you?
so to do those things, we have to enlist a lot of people. The first person we ever enlisted, his name is Jack, and he was a writer for us, still is a writer for us. And he was kind of the first person who kind of, because originally skits for us were kind of just knockoff TV ads. So we'd do like the one, this Baby Vape, which is
Baby Vape. Oh,
Baby,
it's
the
one of our
Baby Vape
sponsors.
Corp. It's a sponsor of us, but it's vape pens for children.
For babies.
Babies.
For babies, right?
Big satire though.
Well,
But
a lot of times if I can interrupt, a lot of
go
times
ahead.
what happens, Warren and I, we discuss the show a lot, okay? So, because we have to walk the dog, and then on those, because the dog, D-Dog needs to walk, and that's where we hash out a lot of the ideas.
Walking the dog.
Right.
Walking the-
right.
yes,
And
walking
so
the
you
dog.
come up with the ideas and stuff, and it's like today it was in the news that Vladimir Putin is using Windows X.
Windows XP.
XP, right? And I guess
You
that's
sent
really,
me that article in
so
the
I'm
middle of
thinking,
class.
what can we do with that? You know what I mean? With sound effects, with dial-up sound effects, an interview with Putin, something like that. And we'll come up with an idea like that, and then Warren will approach the writers and say, write something for this.
Are any of those people that we just saw just now
No.
writers? So you have people off
We do.
screen.
We
that-
actually have a lot of people.
Wow.
I have my friend James, who actually does animation and visual effects work. He has like an iPad Pro and he makes sketches and he's a great artist. I have my friend Mark, who edits stuff for us.
Oh, wow.
Aiden does some editing for us. I have my friend Nick and my friend Calvin, who
Who are
do
the
writing
writers?
for
I
us.
mean, that's the core, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and then Jack, who doesn't really write too much for us, but he's still there. So we have a lot of people off the scene making the production happening, down to people managing our social media profiles on
Wow.
Instagram and Twitter.
So what? I had no idea because you come in here most Saturday mornings and get stuff done. Sometimes it's shooting, but sometimes it's also practicing
Yeah.
or
Right.
rehearsing or getting ready. But I'm curious. We have a little bit more time left, and I just wanted to. I'm curious, just talking to you just now. You have another son, and before the show, you were involved with Tween Light.
The Tween Light Zone, yeah.
But how has it impacted your relationship as father-son that you're doing this all the time? You're creating stuff. You're not.
It creates a lot of tension, Tom. Well, no, because I told you about
I
the
want
clips.
this guy dead.
I thought he was. You complained about the clips not being long enough. I said, "Where's the clips?"
I don't know
and you
if
were
I
like hemming
complained.
and hawing, and we were getting into it last night over the clips. And then your mother says, "Hey, go easy on the boy."
So you have your professional relationship, and then you have your parental relationship or your family
well, no, I mean
relationship.
that's look. My feeling
That's your
is
title.
do it right.
Credits, we should put you down.
But
We're going to have fun, but you can also do it right.
Yeah, I think though that for me it's kind of amazing that you're working together. You put this stuff out. You're working with a lot of your friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course, I guess they also came together through the same interest. You knew them before.
Well, yeah, and the parent. I got to say too, Tom, that the parents are really behind us too, because these guys obviously. We've been doing the TV, like you say, for about a year and a half now. How many episodes have we done?
We have done about 14 episodes.
Right.
As of today.
And for the most part, everybody is consistently showing up and contributing. And the parents are behind that.
They have to be,
giving
right, 'cause they
rides
don't drive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I think that the parents are excited because it is fun doing TV, but it is also challenging. Okay, radio you can kind of wing it. You know, and if you get stuck, you just put on some music, and you've got 4 to 8 minutes to figure out what you're going to do next, right?
Right.
But with TV, you have to know every minute what's going to happen, and you got to time it in, and it's like flying.
Especially for the comedy that you do, because a lot of the shows that we do here in the studio are like this. They're talk shows.
Right.
Yeah.
We did meet beforehand, and we talked, and I took some notes, so there was some sort of structure. But what you're talking about, comedy and timing and all that,
Yeah.
that really has to be rehearsed
Yeah.
and practiced.
Well, like when we did the dark net.
Yes.
We had to time that.
Down to like we do a lot of sketches. A lot of sketches, they're really in depth, and you have people off the camera, and you have lines, and you have to stick to your script, and they take multiple rehearsals to get down. And that's going back to the writing board, revising that script, looking back. How can we change this word so that it's easier to say or faster to say, and we time them. How can it fit into this threshold so when we do film it, it works perfectly.
Yeah, now I'm really impressed by all the stuff that you do, because I'm not always here on Saturdays when
Right,
you're here.
yeah.
I might run into you or something, but you do this sort of solo, you know.
Right,
And the thing about the question I was asking about your impacting your relationship as father or son, it just seems to me that sometimes parents don't often find the time to do much besides, you know, you're home, you go to work, you come home. You actually have an activity that you do together on a regular basis and
Yeah.
turn it out. And other parents have to support that. So it must be something different than I don't know.
I know what you're saying, Tom. You know, my feeling is everybody's complaining about their kids. You know, too much screen time, not looking, you know, away from their phones and looking at the computers and all that. But you know what? What I think that what we need to do as a culture is give our kids something more meaningful to do. You know, something more challenging. You know what I mean? And I don't think that you can just write them off and say, hey, look, I spent all this money on this new electronic gizmo. You know,
Go ahead and do it. Yeah,
have fun.
but
you know?
do it with them.
And then we're like, well, you know, all you do is stare at that thing. You know what I mean? And you know,
that's what we say. One of the things is don't watch TV, make it.
Yeah.
We're actually out of time now, but this has been I'm really enjoying getting to know the show a little bit better right here, right now, and I hope you keep it up for quite a while longer.
Well, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.